Hello, r/smashbros. This is Winnar. Here to talk to you about some of the new rules that just got implemented. So I made a thread the other day and got a lot of responses, a lot of feedback, a lot of angry feedback. So I'd like to kind of go over what these rules were, clarify some things that I don't think people really picked up on. Probably I didn't stress certain points enough. And then I'd like to go through a lot of the concerns that we got, and just open up discussion again. So the two rules were basically we're no longer allowing art on the sub. This is kind of a tentative rule. We're not 100% sold on it, but we're giving it a shot. We gave it one shot, and we, as mods, kind of liked it, and so we're giving it a little bit more of a trial run, and we'll explain some more of I'll explain some more of the details of that in just a second. The second rule was that we're no longer allowing for glory clips. This usually comes in the form of GIFs or Jiffy Cats, and I can explain kind of the mentality, the reason behind both of those in just a second. But before I do that, I want to clarify a little bit. So the first thing is that we're still allowing fan art on our smashbros, sort of. So we're redirecting all of the art to r/smashart, where it kind of belongs a little bit better anyway. But then we're following this user Pford's awesome suggestion of taking the best of our smash art and making a text post about it, and kind of compiling all of the links and all the images that showed up on, like, in a given week or day of r/smash art. And I think this is a really great compromise, and part of the reason we're going and trying this fan art rule out again is because we didn't really get to see how well that played out. So if that plays out as well as I think it will, then we'll probably keep the rule. But if not, then we'll probably resend it. So the next thing I want to clarify is with amiibos. So people freaked out about this. I probably shouldn't have even mentioned them, but I was specifically referring to amiibos that have been repainted, because that basically falls under fan art. So like that's where I was coming from with that. You can still talk about the AIs of amiibos. Anything that relates amiibos to Smash Brothers, totally fine. It's all good. It's barely been touched, actually. I just mentioned it as another example of something that we've seen kind of lately that would not be allowed anymore. So the thing I want to clarify with For Glory is that this refers to more than just For Glory GIFs. This is more like Smash 4. You've like, the game is brand new. People have been playing online, and they do some like really cool combo, or they think is a really cool combo. So they take out their phone, they record it, and then they upload it to our Smash Bros. And some of them are really good. Like I have to admit, a lot of them, at least a good amount of them have been really good. But a much larger amount of them have not been really good. And so I'll kind of get into that a little more in a minute. For now, I want to go through a few of the concerns that were brought up. So the first question is, why ban fan art at all, right? Like, what is the problem that we as mods are seeing that maybe isn't so obvious to the just regular consumer of r/Smash Bros? So the first thing that we kind of see a lot is, as mods, we kind of judge the front page pretty harshly. There's a scarcity of post spots on the front page. Like, there's 50 links, I think, on the front page, but really it's like the first 5, the first 10 are the ones that most people see. Those are the ones that get taken to the front page of people who are just subscribed and never come to the subreddit. So those are the ones we tend to keep our eye on the most, to make sure that those are in line with our standards, our whole pretty much everything that we're trying to make the sub. And fan art tends to get disproportionately upvoted because of its ease of consumption. And I'll talk about that a little more in a minute, but basically the first point is on the front page there's only so many spots that are available, and so we've been kind of pushing for discussion promoting posts as being a big thing that we're looking for, because I can't think of any discussion promoting posts other than, you know, like Smash 4 versus Melee versus, you know, Brawl, whatever. Those we don't really allow because they turn into flame wars like 9 out of 10 times. But we generally like discussion promoting posts because it kind of builds a sense of community. We feel like we're all pushing each other to get better, and, you know, and even if it's not about competition, it's just generally better if people can talk about it instead of just make a quick joke and then move on. Not that we dislike jokes. In fact, we tend to try to have some kind of combination of humorous posts and discussion posts in that top 5 to 10 slots. We're not total sticks in the mud. So the problem, though, is, you know, humor almost every time, like really close to every time, humor will be it will outvote discussion pretty much every time. And since fan art tends to be in the, like, especially comics tend to be more about, like, here's a quick little joke, haha, that's cool, upvote, moving on. Whereas discussion, you have to kind of sit down and you're like, all right, we spend 20 minutes talking about this with people, maybe you upvote it, maybe you don't. Discussion has a harder time in general, so it's something that we try to promote. The next point about fan art is that generally a lot of it ends up being kind of low quality. Maybe not the actual quality of the art. There's kind of two metrics that I tend to judge fan art by. There's the quality of the art, and if it's a comic or some kind of a joke, then I judge the quality of the joke. And almost invariably, the jokes are much worse than the art. And they're jokes that we wouldn't allow in any other form. They're basically memes most of the time. And now this isn't always true, but it has definitely been trending that way for a while now. And it's something we've kind of been anxious about as we've been watching this. The next thing is moderating art is very difficult. We used to have this policy where we'd say, okay, well, only low quality art. We'll just ban out low quality art, and then as we see it, we'll just remove it. But what it always happens is we say, okay, well, here's post A and post B. They're pretty similar in terms of quality, but maybe one is a little bit worse. But we did let A in, so we probably need to let B in. And that just keeps going until eventually we're basically letting everything back in. So it's all very subjective anyway. And, like, you know, how do you say what's good quality and what isn't? It's basically just been us saying, I think this is good enough, which I'm not very comfortable with. I don't think the other mods are comfortable with it either. The only other thing I want to talk about with that point of why it is, you know, why this is on our radar as a potential problem, is that it is mostly a potential problem. It is kind of rare that we do see this be, like, you know, flood the front page. It has happened where, like, 5 out of the 6 top posts have been fan art, but this is more of, I would say, a proactive rule than a reactive rule, and it is also a tentative rule, let me remind you. Because we constantly, you know, we'll hear complaints about Pokemon, r/Pokemon, and how they, you know, let like pretty much anything in, and so a lot of what does show up is fan art, and not all of it is very high quality. Okay, so the next question. If a post or a type of post is getting upvotes, then that means like people are enjoying it, right? Like this is the point of Reddit. If you like it, you upvote it, and then that goes to the front page. So basically the argument is, why are we getting in the way of Reddit? And this kind of boils down to like, what is the job of a moderator in general? And to me, it feels like moderators are more or less content curators. Like, we decide what type of content is allowed on the sub, and like we set the standard for the typical submission, and then people rise to that standard every time. So a good way to think about this is if you look at subs that don't have very much moderation on them, they pretty much just remove like hateful things, racist things, that kind of stuff. This would be like r/gaming. They have very bare bones rules, and pretty much anything gaming related goes. So it is pretty much full of memes, nostalgia posts, like pretty much anything that you can look at, and within 3 seconds you get a quick little like, alright, and then you upvote it and you move on. Now that's all fine and good for r/gaming. They have plenty of people who enjoy that kind of content. It's not really the content that we want to promote. I know I went through it today, and I timed myself how long it would take to go through the front page. Just going through it, it took me like 5 minutes, and I was bored about 2 minutes in, and then there were like only 3 threads that I wanted to check out the comments for, so I could learn more about the posts. Most of them were like a quick little joke, and then you move on. And that's really not what we want on our Smash Bros. And I don't think that's what most people really want. You know, we kind of pride ourselves on the sense of community, and if we don't set the bar, you know, like high enough, then people will just go to the lowest rung that they possibly can. And a lot of this is the fault of Reddit itself. So partly it's, you know, you see a meme, it takes 5 seconds, and then you upvote it. But part of it is that Reddit itself highly values. It has 2 basic metrics that it uses to decide whether a post is popular or deserves more attention. And the first one is, how many upvotes does it get, and then how fast does it get those upvotes. So the first 10 upvotes count as much as the next 100 upvotes. So there's like little tiers that it goes up in terms of visibility, and the first 10 votes count quite a bit. And if you get the first 10 votes in a very short amount of time, then it bumps up the visibility like 2 extra tiers. So it's very, very easy beyond just, okay, this is very digestible. Reddit actually boosts digestible content based off of its algorithm, which is why you'll pretty much see the same types of empty posts on r/gaming, and to a slightly lesser extent r/Pokemon. And again, there's, you know, this problem of there's only so many spaces on the front page. So if we're trying to make sure that the front page is full of submissions that are, you know, high enough quality that we want to engage our users, then allowing posts that don't engage our users, such as most comics, which are basically jokes, like how much discussion do you really have about that? I mean, it's fine and good to have a few jokes every now and then. Like, I mean, we allow a few every day actually, but if it becomes all jokes, then nobody stays. And we actually have a very active community, a very active subreddit, especially for our size. Ultimately, you know, just to summarize, the point of the moderator, we want to set the standard to be high enough that, you know, you as users will rise to that standard. And we feel like fan art kind of skirts between, you know, is it actually high quality versus does it actually, like, how much value does it really provide to the sub to allow it? So the third thing is that I saw a lot of is that you ignored our input. So this is in response to, I made a thread when we banned fan art for a week, and then we re-allowed it on the sub, and then I just asked people 3 questions. I don't remember what the first 2 was like. Did you notice the difference? Did you go to r/smashart because we promoted? I was curious how many people actually went there. And then 3, should we make this change permanent? Should we ban art? And that was the one that I was most interested in. I think that's the one most people were most interested in. And the complaint that I see a lot of in this recent discussion post is that we had this question asked to the community and we turned around and ignored it. And I really disagree with that. I read every single post. I always read every single post whenever I ask these questions, because, I mean, you're right. If I don't read it, if I don't consider it, then it is a worthless thing to ask. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of my time to even pose the question. So I do read all of these, and I do consider all of them. That said, this was not a vote. I was not putting this rule to a vote. I was asking for opinions. It was more of a poll. So yeah, let's get that straight for now. If I do put it to a vote, I'll be very, very clear. You know, this is going to a vote. But I really don't. I don't know. There are issues with putting rules to votes. You know, kind of for the same reason that if you don't allow moderation, then or you get rid of moderation, then you get r/gaming. So I'm not super sure that we need to be opening up rules to the general public. I don't know. It's kind of a. I think that's a whole discussion that we could have like another time. But for now, just know that was not a vote. That was a poll. If we open up a vote, then you'll know it. The other thing I want to say is a lot of the people, like when I opened up that question for discussion, I was really hoping that people would come to me and say, okay, yes, I liked it because it allowed more room for discussion, or any of that stuff. Any of the problems that I mentioned before were addressed, or like, yes, this is why I like that. So good job, keep it going. Or if you didn't like the ban, then I was hoping people would really argue for why they didn't like the ban. And a lot of people did post reasons, but actually pretty much nobody mentioned why, like relative to the problems that like we feel are the actual problems with fan art. Nobody really addressed those. People just said, it's lighthearted, it's become integral to the sub, it doesn't really hurt anything. All of these that don't really address my concerns. So for the most part, like, I took away that nobody could really argue with what I had said, and then it was in favor of allowing art on the sub. But it was not as much of a landslide victory as people are making it out to be. It wasn't like an overwhelming majority said, yes, let's bring back art. So the other thing that I took away from that was that most people who even said, okay, I would be kind of alright, if you ban art, as long as you follow P4's suggestion of having this weekly best of Smash Art thread, then that'd be okay. And actually, if I can get the bot up and running, then I would probably have that run every single day. So there'd be a post about the Smash Art every single day. So all right, the next question or concern that we had a lot of was that this is censorship. You're removing content that is our it is Smash Brothers content, and you're censoring it. So first off, no, we're not. This is not censorship. Censorship is if somebody has like their voice or their opinion that they have on something, or they have news to bring to the table, and that would be like if we decided, no, we're not allowing that. One of the examples given was information on Gamergate. If we were removing posts about that, then that would be censorship. We would be blocking the flow of information to our advantage somehow. But in this case, we're not really silencing anyone. There's a million places you can post art, and in fact, we gave a perfectly viable opportunity for people to post on our Smash art, which we would then promote on our Smash Bros. So I really don't see where you're coming from on the censorship thing. I kind of feel like that was just an anti-mod circle jerk, which I kind of saw a lot of. Let's see. The last thing I want to talk about with fan art is about animated videos. So originally I said, and I remember reluctantly typing yes, and honestly I don't know what the answer would be. In fact, I think it would end up being really a case-by-case basis. And the reason why I said, alright, so let's break down animations. On the one hand, it takes a lot of effort to make an animation. I get that. So usually the quality is much higher, because if you're going to spend like 10s, 20, 100 hours animating something, then you probably are pretty confident in the content that you're creating behind it. So probably the quality is much higher, and the frequency is much lower. So those are two of the big problems that we had with fan art. On the other hand, it very rarely does animation do anything other than tell a joke or a series of jokes. So they're not really promoting, discussion in any way. It's like how much value is actually added. But then on the other hand, we do like humor, so I think it would honestly just be on a case-by-case basis, but I haven't actually given it all that much thought. That's kind of my go-to, is we'll evaluate each video on a case-by-case basis. If I had to guess, we'd probably allow it. Like unless it's legitimately not good quality, then it's probably fine. But I would recommend, if you're making an animation, if you've made an animation, just ask us. Especially if you ask us, we're very nice, like us the mods. You can message the moderators and just make sure it's okay before posting, and that, I hate to say it, but that's pretty endearing to us that you actually care about our opinions. Okay, switching gears, let's talk about For Glory. So the big question was, why ban For Glory clips? And then the second question was, if you're banning For Glory clips, why are you not also banning Melee, Smash 64, Brawl, etc. clips? So the big reason why we're banning these Smash 4 clips is because there are so many of them, and so many of them are really not of that much that high of quality in terms of the gameplay, and usually also in terms of the actual capture device that is used. Meanwhile, other games that have been around for like upwards of 13, 16 years, however long Smash 64 has been out, sheesh, that's old. People have the capture capabilities for these games, so that's the quality of the video is not really an issue. The quantity is not really an issue for the most part. Every now and then, if there's a Melee tournament, then suddenly we're swamped with Melee GIFs. But the quality of the gameplay is pretty consistently highly refined in Melee and all the other Smash games. But that's only because the games have been out for so long. It's fine that Smash 4 gameplay is not ultra refined. The game has not been out on the Wii U for even a month. It's just barely been like 2 weeks, I think. Time flies. So that's a problem that won't exist soon. So don't worry about that. Just for now, there's only so much space on the front page, and so much of it, like, people just are very easily impressed so far because a lot of people don't know what's possible in this game. So if they see anything at all that is like new to them or interesting or kind of cool, then okay, that's cool. That's upvote. Then that hits the front page, and there's kind of this disparity of like the quality of submission versus what actually deserves to be in those top 5 spots. And usually the Smash 4 clips get higher ranking than I think, and a lot of people think they actually deserve. Plus it gets kind of stale seeing so many Smash 4 GIFs on the front page. To address the second concern of well, I guess well, no, I'll get into that in just a little bit. But I do want to mention that we actually do remove a fair amount of like melee clips, especially just because that's the second most submitted game, like content for that game. And like we actually do remove a lot of low quality GIFs from that. It's just that there's so many Smash 4 GIFs that we remove more of those, and more of them by percentage because the game is so new. So that's kind of where we're going with that. We're not like some Smash Illuminati. We're not trying to throw down Smash 4. We're just trying to hold Smash 4 to a little bit of a higher standard than when the game first came out. So this will be like an incremental thing. Smash 4 will get better, and in part I feel like that's because we raised the standard of what Smash 4 content should look like. So the next thing is, well, what can we post on our Smash Bros? Right? Like if you're not allowing 4 glory gifts, if you're not allowing fan art, then what can we have? And the answer is very simple, and I don't think it comes across as cheeky and disrespectful, but just look at the front page. There's a wide variety of different submissions that we do allow that are constantly being posted. It's one of the things we actually pride ourselves on more than almost anything, is that despite having such a wide audience, I mean, Smash Brothers, there's people who love Smash 64, Melee, each game has its own community, and many of the games are not that similar in terms of the content that they would most like to have. You know, like Melee, like tournament Melee players would probably like to see more tournament Melee GIFs, or discussion, or tiered list stuff, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. Whereas the Smash 4 player is maybe, you know, like I see all kinds of threads like, how do I unlock this? Like, what are some strategies on home run contests, that kind of stuff. Like, just it's a very wide audience. You can say we should allow everything for Smash Brothers, but actually catering to everybody is very difficult. And I'm really proud of both us as moderators for our ability to kind of, you know, balance out the subreddit, but more than credit to us is credit to you guys who submit so much content for every different game that, you know, like I'm a huge fan of our subreddit. That's why I stick around. Try to make it a better place. Even if I get some flack, it's, you know, it's to be expected. Yeah, just really want to shout out that, okay, so this actually made me laugh a little bit, and it also kind of hurt to read. Somebody actually posted, and this is quote, like word for word, they, like us the moderators, they literally banned 90% of the Smash 4 content, and Melee has been untouched. That is so blatantly false. There's... Okay, as an example, Henryuk, one of the mods here, went back after reading that and compiled a list of what all of the flares were for just the last 24 hours. So these are like what has been submitted in the last 24 hours. There was 1 link for 64, 5 posts for Brawl, somewhere around 5. Melee had like 35. Smash 4 had over 125 different types of posts for it. It is far and away the most content is being submitted for Smash 4, which makes sense, and that's great. But then you can't turn around and say that we're banning 90% of Smash 4 content when clearly there's so much Smash 4 content. It's just, I don't even know if this is worth talking about, but it's something that, like, I kind of recoiled when I read. So the main point is there's kind of this circle jerk going around, like, and this is the first time we've seen it, really, that, you know, the mods have something to gain by Smash 4, like, getting moderated harder. And that's absolutely not true. Like, we we're not looking to make like, oh, the return of Melee or something. If people want Melee content, they can go to r/ssbm. It's a great subreddit. I frequent it. I love the place, but I also love r/smashbros, which is more or less a catch-all for all of the different Smash content. And I'm really happy to have this sub be what it is. Something else, somebody recently asked me, what is your goal with r/smashbros? And this has been something we've struggled with for a long time, because it is sort of that catch-all. But right now, my thinking is to focus, we want mostly posts that can be discussed, even if it's not, or especially if it's not competitive. Like, every time I post Metagame Monday, except rare occasions, I make a discussion prompt. And every time it's something that's, a discussion prompt, but isn't necessarily competitive discussion prompt. Stuff like, if you had to redesign a Final Smash, how would you make it? Or what Nintendo character that didn't make it would you like to see in? Or if there was a new Pokeball, Pokemon, you throw a Pokeball and then a Pokemon comes out that's never been seen in Smash. These are discussion prompts that aren't necessarily competitive, so it's stuff that we really want to see more of, because that's the real community building aspect. But then, we also do want the light and humorous stuff, because we do value that as well. Even if each individual submission doesn't provide as much value as, say, a discussion post, in aggregate, the humorous posts do provide a good amount of value on their own. Kind of some fluff is good. So we're not looking to cut out all fluff. Actually, speaking of that, another question we get a lot is about tagging. A lot of subreddits like r/Dota2 have tags so that there's fluff, there's tournament, there's all kinds of stuff, video, all sorts of stuff, esports, and people can filter out based on those. This will work great for r/smashbros, but the problem is there's only one set of flair that you can use, and right now that's used for distinguishing what game. And so there's a trade-off. Do we allow people to distinguish by game, or do we allow them to distinguish by topic? And for the longest time we've done game, because that kind of makes the most sense. Like, if I'm really only interested in Melee, then I can just filter by Melee, no big deal. Or if I only like Smash 4, you get the picture. But I mean, we could try doing tagged posts by topic instead of by game. I'm not against it by any means, and the more I hear about it, the more I think we at least ought to give it a shot. Anyway, I've rambled quite long enough, so I hope this answered some questions. I hope you will pose more questions for me. I do love hearing from you guys. It's actually very rare that I get that kind of negative feedback. In fact, that was the first time ever that I've posted one of those threads and got overwhelmingly negative feedback. So I knew I needed to do something else to, on top of just making a post about it, responding to people. That's why I'm kind of making this thread or this video. So yeah, thank you for watching, everyone who stuck through it, and let me know your thoughts. Yeah, hope you'll continue to suffer through these bumbles with us, and yeah.